What's up, everybody? Josh Isbell, and today I'm going to give you 4 quick steps so that you can ensure every one of your rental properties has an amazing cash flow. But first, go ahead and hit that like, subscribe, and that little bell up there to ensure that you're getting great content like this. All right, so cash flow is super simple. It's taking your rent minus your expenses, and basically that's your cash flow. But I'm going to show you the steps that are going to keep you from actually losing money, because this is where everybody actually messes up. They think it's a simple calculation, and let me show you step 1, and then I'll get you to where they'll actually mess up and start losing money. So the first thing that I actually come into, and I want to see what my rental income is, okay? So step 1 is your rental income. In order to have rental income, you have to have a property. Now I'm going to use the property that I just recently bought. I bought this property. I'm in it for $100,000. I financed $80,000, and I put down 20 grand as far as a down payment. Okay, so my cash into that property is $20,000. My rent that I'm getting on this property is $1,200 a month. And on top of that, you have to figure out what your other possible income could be. A lot of people forget that you have to include things like if it's an apartment, you may have laundry. And if I don't spell something correct, well, it just happens. You may have parking. Several other things such as storage, things like that. But on this one, a single family house, I only have one actual income. So I have $1,200 that I am bringing in total. All right. Now this, on step 2, is where everybody starts to basically get confused on what they need to allow for. Your expenses are super simple, and on this one, you are going to actually include your mortgage. I always tell people, make sure that you can calculate this in front of a house or on the phone while you're talking to somebody, because when you find a good deal, most of the time it's going to be off market. You're not going to actually be able to sit on it. You have to act real quick. You don't have time to put it into a spreadsheet and everything. So you're going to need to use your phone, use a calculator, whatever. You don't have time for an actual spreadsheet. So my mortgage on this one, 30-year, it was a little under 5%, and it was like 403, but I'm gonna use 400 just to keep all this simple. I have to have taxes, otherwise somebody's gonna take that house from me. I'm gonna use 200 here, because that's roughly right where I'm paying on this house. And your insurance. Make sure you pay up for your insurance, because if it burns down or anything like that, you want to make sure you get that return on your investment. So I take these numbers right here. That's $700. I subtract it from my $1,200, and I'm making $500 a month, right? Great, that's an amazing investment, except it's not right. It's not right at all. You're going to have to make sure that you have all your other things figured out. Now, what are those other things? You have your utilities, such as water. You have your electric. You have your gas, trash, and other things that are just involved with your utilities. Now you have to make sure you also include your vacancy. Vacancy is something that in my area, it's a little less than 5%. Sometimes it does average 5%. Basically for this one, we'll just use an even $50. I don't have any trash or any electric because this is a single family home, but if you get into fourplex, like you have a security light and stuff like that, you have to think about how much your electric is going to be. All right. Some fourplexes actually have it all in 1 meter, so you either have to figure out what that's going to cost you each month and how you're going to charge the tenants. But the big thing that you have to understand is that you can start losing money with these things, as well as not accounting for your vacancy, your repairs, that happen basically every year, as well as your future repairs or your capital expenditures. I'm just going to put that right there. So each month, I make sure that I'm setting aside a percentage of my rent. On this particular one, I want for my single family houses anywhere between $500 and $600. So if I set aside $50 a month, that leaves me enough money. If a water heater goes out in a year, $600, it pretty much pays for it right there. Future expenditures, these are things like you find termite damage, or you find you have to replace an AC, or you actually have a roof that has to be replaced. This is where you need to set aside money for these things. Otherwise, you're going to end up pulling it out of your profit where you thought you were making $500 a month and you're spending that money. Now you have to scrape the bottom of the barrel and figure out where you're going to get that money. So I set aside these amounts every month to ensure, well, this one will just come out whenever you don't make rent. But I set aside these amounts every month to ensure that I don't have to come out of my pocket, and I have savings accounts for these. All right. The last thing that a lot of people don't even calculate in here is your property management. Yes, my writing is beautiful, and you can comment how much you love it down below, as well as make sure you hit that like button, all that stuff, because it takes me a lot of time to actually put all this together for you and get it edited so that you guys can learn and make money and actually not lose your rear end on these things. So again, to ensure that I'm not losing any money, my typical management fee is about 10%, but just for the sake of making this easy so I don't have to break out a calculator or anything, I'm going to put $100 there. Adding that all up, 7, 8, so that gives me $950 in total expenditures. So you can circle it, square it, whatever, but I have these two costs here. So these are the costs that I actually have to really look into. And I know when it comes to my cash flow, if I come over here, I'm simply going to take my rental income, which is $1,200, and I'm going to take my expenses. Almost forgot how to spell that. I probably did spell it wrong. Oh well. And basically, I'm going to subtract the two. So that's going to give me a profit of $250. Now, for me, a lot of people will say, hey, anything at $100 per door is great, which it kind of is if you're getting into fourplexes and multifamily houses. But for me, I have to be upwards of several $100s in order for it to be a successful venture for me. Now, $250 sounds great. I made $250. Now, if you take that by 12 months, that equals $3,000. That means I'm making an additional $3,000 a year on this one property. Is it actually worth that though? So some people are going to go, oh my gosh, but I had $20,000. Yes, now I'm making my money actually work for me. So I invested my $20,000 here. Now I'm looking at this and saying, great, I'm going to get my money back on my investment after a couple years, but that's not where you have to stop. A lot of people just say, hey, I'm done, I'm making $3,000. I suggest you actually put in the extra work and come down here and see what your cash on cash return. Because this is going to tell you, plain and simple, on whether you're actually going to make money or not. Now, I say make money or not. This is going to let you know on whether it's worth investing $20,000 into this property. It's probably going to come out great, but say this is $50,000. Is it worth $3,000 a year? So this is where you actually have to come in. And you have to take the time and make sure that you're calculating everything. So your down payment. You got your down payment. We know I put in $20,000. Okay. What other costs as far as like cash and stuff like that, I may have stepped out of the thing, but as far as like cash and other things like that, have I invested into this property? One of the other things that I had to do is I had to put some money into it as far as rehab, and you're always going to have other costs, okay? When I'm buying a $100,000 property here, basically about 1% of that is going to go to closing costs and stuff like that. So I like to put, let's say, $1,000 here in other costs. This particular property cost me $5,000 in actual rehab that I had to do. I had to replace some flooring and stuff like that. So in total, cash in on this property, I'm $26,000 into this property. And at this $26,000, is it worth what I've already invested at the $3,000? So I have to come down here, take my cash flow, and divide that by my total investment. So, okay, remember the investment is only the actual cash that you've put into it. It's not the $80,000 that I have a loan on it. It's the cash that I've invested. So the $3,000 divided by $26,000, and I think that's going to come out to right at 11. Is it 11? 11. Actually, it's going to come out to like 11,538, I think, which I make that a percentage. My return is 11.53, I believe. It's very important. Check my numbers on it. And what does this mean for me? So for me, anything over 10% is a potential winner. So I'm looking for a cash-on-cash return of anything above 10%. The higher I can get, 15 or so, is going to tell me whether I want to keep this property or not. What do I mean by keep it or not? And that's where I'm going to go into my next episode or video. I'm going to tell you whether you're going to rent a property or flip a property based off of what you're doing on your cash-on-cash investment. Is it worth the $3,000 a month, or is it better to take your total return? All right. Hey guys, this is how you figure out your cash flow as well as your cash-on-cash return. Take it from me. Take your time. If you can't do this in front of a house or on the phone with somebody, this literally takes me seconds to do. It took me, 10, 15 minutes with y'all. These are all automatic. I know these because I've done these for so long, what I'm going to be cost or what it's going to cost me. But figuring out the rent, and I'll show you on one of the next ones where you can find out a little bit better way to figure out your rent for an area. But the big thing here, figure this out in front of a house. If you have to put it on a spreadsheet, you may be doing it wrong, or you're definitely doing it wrong, and you're going to be searching for a profit. Be able to do these numbers in your head. That way you can make cash quick, make an offer, and you don't lose out on a property. All right, guys. I'm Josh. Don't forget to hit the like button, that subscribe, and the little bell so that you can get more great episodes like this series. We will have, next week, a flip. So pay attention to your numbers, and appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good one.